Welcome to this explainer. We're diving into an absolutely wild journey today, tracking how mobile phones completely transformed from these massive, exclusive 2-pound business tools into the universally accessible, pocket-sized consumer gadgets we literally can't live without today.
I mean, seriously, how did a $4,000, nearly 2-pound brick become the single most essential thing in your pocket? To really answer that, we've got to rewind to April 3rd, 1973, right in the heart of New York City. Our story kicks off with an engineer named Marty Cooper over at Motorola. In this brilliant, historic moment, Cooper took a prototype mobile phone out onto the street and made the very first call of its kind. And who did he decide to call? A rival engineer over at their competitor, Bell Laboratories. It was literally the ultimate flex. But as we'll see, that chunky prototype was a far cry from the sleek little supercomputers we all carry around today.
Section 1. The Era of the Brick. Welcome to the 1980s.
So, get this. It took 11 whole years after Marty Cooper's initial 1973 prototype call for a phone to actually hit the public market. In 1984, it finally arrived. The Motorola Dynatac 8000X. Back then, everyone called it a cell phone rather than a mobile, and it was completely groundbreaking. But let's be real, it definitely wasn't for everybody.
The ultimate barrier to entry? A massive $3,995 price tag. If you adjust that for inflation today, you're looking at something closer to $11,700, or about 9,500 pounds. Just to put that extreme cost into perspective, the average weekly wage in the UK around that time was only £117. And for that astronomical price, you couldn't text, there was no social media, and there was absolutely no camera. All you could do was make a telephone call. Because of this massive cost, these first-generation phones were strictly luxury business tools. They were used almost exclusively by elite professionals who were always on the move, needed to reach clients, and, crucially, could actually afford the bill.
And the physical realities of the era were just stark. A 1980s brick weighed 790 grams. That is 1.7 pounds. To put that in perspective, that's roughly 4 times as heavy as your modern iPhone. You absolutely could not slip this thing into your pocket. And the battery life? Oh man, you had to plug it into the wall for 10 whole hours just to squeeze out 30 minutes of talk time. Plus, you had to physically yank out a 15-centimeter antenna before you could even make a connection. When you look back at these absurd physical limitations, the lightweight, powerful little devices we use today just feel like pure science fiction.
Section 2. Connecting the everyday consumer. Moving into the 1990s.
Okay, so the arrival of 2G signals brought a massive shift. Phones started shrinking down, they became a lot easier to handle, and teenagers actually began entering the market. We start seeing features aggressively morphing from strict business tools into highly engaging consumer gadgets. In 1992, boom, the very first SMS text message is sent. By 1994, the Haugenuk MT2000 dropped the very first mobile game, Tetris. Then 1997 hits, and Nokia introduces the absolute legend that is the game Snake. And by 1999, phones are hitting the market with back-facing cameras, perfect for snapping photos on the go. The whole focus had officially shifted to everyday life.
Right smack in the middle of that 90s boom was the 1996 Nokia 9000 communicator. Made by the Finnish firm Nokia, this thing was regarded as totally revolutionary because it actually brought the internet to a handset for the very first time. You could flip it open to reveal a full keyboard and a decent-sized screen. It was so incredibly cutting edge that it featured prominently in the 1997 film The Saint, where Val Kilmer's character whipped out his Nokia to get out of a jam. We're really starting to see the true blueprint for the ultimate consumer device here.
Section 3. Early smartphone prototypes. Bridging the gap.
Now, you might be wondering, what actually was the very first smartphone? Well, it's kind of tricky to pin down. The smartphone concept really doesn't have a single definitive start date. Instead, it was an evolution. The elements that make up a smartphone, like sending emails or using apps, popped up on different models at different times. It was a gradual piecing together of exactly what consumers wanted and needed. A lot of folks point to the IBM Simon from 1994 as the first true contender. Believe it or not, it had a touchscreen, it could send faxes, and it even had email and calendar functions, years before anyone was throwing the word smartphone around. Then in 1999, the BlackBerry hit the scene. It ditched those traditional telephone buttons for a full-on keyboard right on the casing, and it became ridiculously popular for its messaging service and handling emails. These devices were absolutely crucial stepping stones, testing out the tech that would eventually become standard for everyday users.
Section 4. The Modern Smartphone Revolution. Entering the post-2007 era. And here we are, the big turning point. January 2007, San Francisco. Steve Jobs unveils the very first Apple iPhone to a wildly excited crowd. It represented the ultimate shift in our story. Jobs famously described it as seamlessly combining a music player, the iPod, with internet capabilities and a touchscreen mobile phone. The modern smartphone, functioning as an all-in-one entertainment and communication gadget for the masses, was officially born.
What followed 2007 was literally an explosion of accessible consumer features. Apple rolled out the App Store, letting users customize their phones with whatever they wanted. In 2008, the very first Android smartphone launched, kicking the global market into overdrive. Then, camera technology just skyrocketed. In 2013, Acer's Liquid S2 became the first phone to pack a 4K camera for ultra-high-def images, and by 2015, we got the first iPhone to actually record 4K video. Fast forward to today, and we're effortlessly streaming live global TV, films, and sporting events right from our pockets without a second thought.
So what does this all mean? Well, we've gone from a 1.7-pound luxury business brick that died after 30 minutes to a featherweight, 4K global broadcasting device that practically everyone on Earth carries around. It is a breathtaking leap. So I've got to leave you with this to reflect on. Considering how incredibly far we've come in just a few short decades, what on earth will the device in our pocket look like in another 40 years? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep wondering about what comes next.